apart from the fact that Mr. Modi seems to be very astute in has a business sense and would respond to these suggestions.
You know, since you are talking about innovative, out-of-the-box thinking, rationalizing, downsizing, the big buzz today is that given Mr. Modi's maxim of minimum government and maximum governance, we are actually going to move away from these super-sized jumbo cabinets to a smaller, perhaps more efficient government. Do you believe that we are going to move in that direction as early as the 26th of May?
And well, I heard words to that effect, but I'm not privy to that.
But do you think that as part of the first 60-day agenda, Mr. Modi is going to make it very clear that whether it's creating an integrated energy ministry, which clubs oil and gas, power and so on and so forth under one ministry, or creating an infrastructure ministry, for instance, that is going to be the road ahead. So the cabinet rank ministers are going to be a much smaller council of ministers and a lot of ministers of state looking after these ministries or these separate functions.
Yes, that's the idea that I heard. Of course, you must remember that this works more for coordination rather than for saving a lot of money. All you've done is eliminate 20 cabinet ministers.
Well, sure, but it's about faster decision making. It's about not getting stuck.
It's a very important signal. But the moving out of 200 enterprises from the ministries will really be downsizing, and it will really be a great step towards professionalization of the governmental sector taken as a whole.
What does your gut tell you? Is he going to bite this bullet right away?
And I would think so. Not on the question of moving the PSUs out, but
on downsizing the government.
I would think so.
Okay. Let me talk to you about some of the other priorities that the government faces. And we've been talking about taxes, the direct taxes code, gone through many iterations, many changes. You believe that it's essentially paragraphs moved around, clauses changed. Yes. It needs a complete overhaul again.
And not by 5 years, 3 months, get very good tax lawyers and the government's experts, please do it. And give them very strict terms, this is what I want to see in the result. Why are you going on and on with these exemptions? That's where all the problem arises. And the complexity of the code arises. And the American Constitution is 14 articles. So we should do something like that. But
what would be a realistic timeline then for the DTC, given the routes that you're suggesting?
I can write a 400-page book in 3 months from beginning to end. So if I can, sitting alone, do it with all the references and all the footnotes.
So maybe not in this session of Parliament, but in the next session of Parliament, you believe the government should be ready to bring it to Parliament?
But it is certainly possible. That does not mean you've got the consensus of everybody. As Mrs. Thatcher would say, it's an overrated virtue, this consensus. Get the best experts. Here are chapter-wise things, please just simplify them.
You know, you've been talking about getting the best experts and putting their mind to how they can address some of these problems. There's again been a lot of talk on whether we're going to see committees or a bunch of committees being set up, housed under various ministries, comprising of technocrats. What do you make of that idea, and how do you see that as working within the government framework?
No, firstly, I would be surprised if anybody sets up permanent committees, because then that's yet another body. My idea was bring together experts for that particular task, and then test experts disperse and assemble in some other formation for some other task. So on the direct taxes code, okay. But on the GST, so many years we have spent. India cannot decide on one code for the states and centre, just 4 taxes. And great, so why not just say in public, say these are the 4 points on which there is disagreement. Let the public of India know and say that these are the options in this. And let's have a rational debate on that. I cannot imagine, this is not the theological issue of how many...
It's been made to seem like that. I mean,
yes,
you have committee after committee, empowered panel after empowered panel,
because that's we want to
negotiating for the last several years.
Yes, it's taking as long as the negotiations with China on the border. That's not the way that a country can move forward.
Realistic timeline for GST?
No, I don't know.
We didn't have a timeline in the manifesto.
No, but I would not think of I do not know of a timeline. But I cannot understand what is this complex issue. What are the 3 points of disagreement? And this idea that there will be 3 types of GSTs. Local, state GST, interstate GST, central GST, then you are only replacing the local sales tax with the interstate sales tax and the central excise. then what advance have you made? And if you are going to allow different states to do various things, and liquor is going to be out, or this, that and the other, then really people are keeping discretion in their hands for reasons that that do not have to do with economic efficiency.
You know, speaking of discretion, there's been a lot of controversy about the discretion at the taxman's end, and this has become the #1 problem when people talk about investing in India. You've often said that some of the grounds on which these tax demand notices have been sent are atrocious.
And absurd.
Absurd. How do you rein in the tax department? Is it just an issue of leadership? And as far as addressing the retrospective law is concerned, what could be the way to address that?
Retrospective government announcement thinks we will not go into retrospective cases, and this idea that you can reopen cases for multinationals or whatever for 16 years. Now the limit has been extended to 16 years. Who will come to invest here? Because of policy uncertainty, you do not know what meteor will hit you. So the country must be acquainted. We must make it familiar with what are the consequences of these changes.
So should the Prime Minister move a clarificatory amendment that resolves this retrospective matter once and for all in Parliament?
The Prime Minister or the Finance Minister, I mean, I do not know whose jurisdiction of the corporate affairs is. Yes, certainly. Even an announcement from a person like Modi, whose word will be believed. That yes, as long as I'm here, these are the 3 things that will not happen. Similarly, you were saying what to do about the reining in of the inspectors. Yes, first we should talk to whoever these I mean, I don't know about tax administration, but whoever these departments are. Second, on the grounds, I'll tell you, one of the best ways would be, do not disclose the name of the company on which you have sent a demand notice, but on the ground on which you have reopened the case or demanded more money, you put it on the internet. I tell you, they will be shamed into having a better reasoning before they just start demanding money. Somebody exports 23,000 crores worth of products, gets foreign exchange, it's deposited in the bank, and some chap says this is local sales within India, they are not exports. Foreign exchange has come, there is no evidence of having sold it here. Similarly, a car manufacturer sells cars all over India. His head office in Chennai, let's say, pays freight. And somebody said, no, you did not sell them in the rest of India, you sold them all in Chennai. How can it be? So you put that on the internet, everybody sees it, and the department itself will say, "Arey bhaiya, aise mat karo."
You know, Vodafone has now slapped the government with an arbitration notice. They tried to conciliate with the Indian government. The Indian government wanted them to conciliate under Indian law. Vodafone said we can't do it under Indian law. What is the best way forward?
The best forward is, what was there in the contract? In the first license, was there a provision for arbitration, and where? That's the point. If it's there, then it's the word of the government of India that is at stake, not some 1,000 crores. So if you agreed at the time of the contract or the bid or the license to a particular clause, you must adhere to that clause. So if it said, yes, it will be examined, the arbitration shall take place in London, it must take place in London. I can't understand this great going back on the word of the government now.
But